All statements and opinions expressed by guests of the Adult in the Room podcast are strictly their own and do not necessarily reflect the beliefs or opinions of the host, producers, or advertisers. All interviews are presented in their most complete possible form in the interests of free speech. No statements should be interpreted as financial, legal, or medical advice. Listener and viewer discretion are strongly advised.
It's the Adult in the Room podcast with Victoria Taft. That's me.
Good afternoon, Victoria Taft, your Adult in the Room. How you doing? Lots to talk about today. Anything happen in the news? I think they're trying to coup Pete Hegseth and Swift Bodum. And also, apparently, we have an arrest of someone, which is now identified allegedly as the J6 pipe bomber. So we'll unpack that today because there are conflicting stories about that. So I want to make sure that we hit them all to see if they are mutually exclusive or if they can maybe help each other. I don't know. We're going to find out. Lots to talk about. Okay. So the other day we were talking about the fact that we are seeing an operation sort of rolling out in real time, right? And the bottom line is that it's an information op and the left is running it and they're doing it through all their friends and NGOs and that sort of thing. And it started with these billboards. Did you go airborne just to pull security for ICE? In an attempt to dispirit military officials, our young guys going through basic or at least on base, you know. And it's paid for, of course, by NGOs. I saw this video of the organization that put these videos out or these billboards out. And it's the usual suspects. We have the National Lawyers Guild and all that falderall going on there. And so we talked about that and unpacked that. And here's how they told them to, go secret, go dark, just get in touch with us. Shh. We want you to coup the president. And of course, the target has always been ultimately, of course, it's Trump. But it's also Pete Hegseth, obviously, because he is the Secretary of War. And they're trying to pick off the weak from the herd, the Trump herd. And so now we've got another bizarre turn in this. Of course, we said these seditious six, the video put out by these folks, lawmakers all, and former CIA folks and intelligence experts, one of whom is Jake Sullivan's wife. Gee, I wonder why he'd have any say in this, and calling for people to ignore the president's orders. That's really what there's, what is it, the signal and the noise? The signal is ignore the president. The noise is, well, we didn't really mean it. We don't really know. And then we had this gal. This is
out of places like Chicago.
Alyssa Slotkin.
It makes me incredibly nervous that we're about to see people in law enforcement, people in uniform military get nervous, get stressed, shoot at American civilians.
And they're talking about the National Guard there. And of course, right after she said this, 2 National Guardsmen were shot. And no, we don't know if there's a connection whatsoever. It sounds like some, wackadoodle-doo from Afghanistan who was radicalized and or his family was being compromised. Or we're unsure of what the latest is, but we know that it was this guy because he was on tape shooting these people. And then he took off all his clothes so that he'd be ready for his virgins when he was finally offed by the cops. But he didn't get offed. He got shot 4 times. But then what happened? They took him away, and now he's in the jurisprudential system. Then we had this. Here is a sitting U.S. Senator, Navy veteran, Mark Warner. That would be Mark Kelly, former astronaut, saying, well, on these gunboat, the Coke boat things, the fact that we're shooting them with drones and getting rid of the people on them and all the drugs. And here is Mark Warner saying, oh, I would ignore this order.
Public hearings will put people under oath. We need to get to the bottom of this.
We need to get to the bottom of it.
Military is, the most powerful and effective, military in the world. And
yeah, okay.
we've got to be, precise, and we have to be operating.
Can I just cut to the chase? Let me just upcut here.
That's why I say I hope what I've heard about this strike is not accurate.
You mentioned that you were a captain in the Navy. If you received that order, would you have carried it out?
No.
No, of course not.
I'm a guy who I have sunk.
Okay, thanks very much, Mark. Thanks very much. And then, of course, now we've got another. I mean, this guy's just, bless his heart. Mark Warner, senator, calling for a coup.
Unprecedented disrespect when they were all brought to get a pep rally in front of Hegseth and Trump. This is an administration that's fired, uniform generals from the head of the NSA, the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency. And I think in many ways, the uniform military may help save us from this president and his lame people like Hegseth, because I think their commitment is to the Constitution and obviously not to Trump.
Oh, military, please save us from that mean orange man. Please save us from that man. That was a call to defy orders from the commander in chief. Now, that's what I think. But I'm not some, I'm nobody. What do I know? Kurt Schlichter, an author, a columnist, town hall, and lawyer, a retired Army guy who ran a gas station in the Middle East. That's what he says anyway. How are you?
I'm doing okay. How about you?
Doing all right. How'd I do on the ramp up, the tempo of this op?
I think you summed it all up. I think it's been ineptly handled. It got when their psychopathic Afghan friend decided to go on a murder spree in Washington, D.C., they had to step on the gas and drop it on the Friday of Thanksgiving. So nobody was watching, and except us pundits. And then so Monday, normal people came back, and they were mostly thinking, wait a minute, we killed some drug dealers and that's bad somehow. I'm going to go play Candy Crush. And of course, the facts, which are actually important, demonstrate that this was not remotely a war crime. By the way, I'm really excited about the same people who became during COVID became epidemiologists, and when tariffs came out became economists, are now experts in the law of armed conflict. So, I mean, we're just blessed to have a bunch of internet Renaissance men who can provide us their insights on whatever topic there is. So I don't think most Americans really care about this. I saw some polling that says one of Trump's most popular initiatives is killing drug dealers. And I think if you want to if the Democrats want to take the side of the drug guys, I guess that's okay. It's not going to work. It's not going to help them. What they're really trying to do is, of course, get rid of Pete Hegseth for two reasons. First, it hurts Trump. Mm-hmm. And then that would be major damage. It seemed to be major damage to Trump. But the other thing is they despise the fact that he's turning the Pentagon back into a military organization instead of a left-wing petri dish of social pathologies. They're terrified that when the time comes for their color revolution, the Pentagon won't be there to help them. And it won't be. So Pete Hegseth's not going anywhere. Nobody's going anywhere. Nobody's going to get prosecuted. Everybody's going to get pardoned before Trump leaves office, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So this is really just an act of masturbation, essentially, by the Democrats. It's like having some pervert at the edge of a park in a raincoat touching himself to scare the kids. That's pretty much what they're doing. And it's going to have about the same positive impact on humanity.
Yeah, but we can see what they're doing. And that's fine.
Yeah, and I'm like bored.
I get it.
I'm just like, you're so stupid. One of them comes out and says, I saw the video that it was the worst thing I'd ever seen. 2 injured people and they killed them. Yeah. And?
Yeah.
And?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, with his massive experience in the military, which would be, well, none, they're aware of they're aware of a one-shot rule for missile attacks
Right.
that I never heard of. That if you don't get them on the first shot, but only hurt them a little, you can't finish it.
Right.
I've never heard of that.
So
I don't think that exists.
Interesting Times person, Free the Bee 22 said the leftists are pretending that when a soldier shoots an enemy twice, the second bullet is a war crime. Please explain to them.
Stupid. It's stupid and annoying and transparent. And I just don't think normal people are doing it. Normal people are not. I don't think normal people are playing along. In your life, have you gone out and has anyone come up to you and said, this is horrifying. I can't, this is the worst thing ever. America's broken because it's killing the people, importing poison in that killed 100,000 people last year.
Yeah.
This is the worst thing ever. I haven't heard a single person
Well, the leftists do
complain about it outside of Twitter.
Right. I mean, and those are the left. I do worry about civil liberties and all that stuff, but for example, I was concerned, even though I knew those guys were dirtbags and were all Alaki, and then the kid who was his protege in Yemen, I think it was, are taken out by a couple of drones fired by our friend Barack Obama, and multiple.
I was
times.
all for that too.
Yeah,
if you're an American and you're around terrorists, you should die.
They were terrorists. They left.
I don't care. And I don't care if he's 16.
Right.
Screw him. You fight America, you die. I think that's perfectly reasonable. I think it's also consistent with, all of human history. I'm trying to figure out when history changed. Was it 2 weeks ago where suddenly for all these, overly intricate reasons, we're suddenly not allowed to defend ourselves by killing our enemies? Well, no, I'm not going to do that. And I don't care. You want to hide, you one of those paper citizens of America and you're riding around with terrorists? Good riddance. I'm glad you're dead. And I'm glad Obama did it.
Mm-hmm.
But if Pete Hegseth's a war criminal, so is Barack Obama. Now, Barack Obama is a lot of things, but he's not a war criminal for that. In fact, that's one of the only good things he's done. I mean, should we have not shot Osama bin Laden? Well, I'm sure they'll tell you, yeah, she shouldn't have. But they won't actually say it because I think that's a bridge too far for people. They'll just kind of weasel about it. The test I like to have is, okay, you think we can't blow up boats carrying drugs into America? No, we can't. That's terrible. It's the worst thing ever. It's awful. It violates our civil liberties. Okay, great. What if they were bringing barrels of mustard gas, also known as HD? I did chemical warfare stuff. And I know what mustard gas does to people. Spoiler, it's bad. If they're bringing mustard gas into the United States, can we blow them up? Now they've got a decision point. They can say no, and I'm perfectly happy for them to run on a campaign platform of we will allow people to bring mustard gas into America rather than stop them. Okay, yes, cool, go for it. Make that your platform. Or no, we definitely can destroy them. At which point I say, okay, what's the difference between the drugs they're bringing in and the mustard gas? And the big difference is the mustard gas has killed exactly 0 people in the last year. And illegal drugs have killed nearly 100,000 Americans in the last year. So again, why can't we blow up drug boats?
Also, is this sort of how we're going after Venezuela? I know some of this stuff comes from Colombia. Some of it comes from Mexican drug labs, thanks to the Chinese with the precursors. And some of it's coming from Venezuela. Is this just all part and parcel of a, 4G chess thing that we're not privy to? Or what are you seeing?
Well, I'm all for overthrowing the communist government of Venezuela, which is acting with the Russians, Iranians, Chinese, and Cubans to undermine America and has been. I want him gone. Mm-hmm. This is our couple of continents. It's not a Monroe Doctrine unless you actually enforce it.
Yeah.
I'm not a forever war guy. I am a war when we have enemies and they need to be destroyed guy. And Maduro is our enemy. So if they, to the extent this is part and parcel of getting rid of Maduro, okay, fine with me. Don't care. Though they have been destroying boats in the Pacific, which is not where Venezuela is. That would be, those would mostly be coming Colombia or Ecuador. But to the extent it's aimed at Maduro, good. I want Maduro gone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's only a matter of time before he is.
He's looking for sanctuary in Qatar, of all places. Do you think that President Trump sort of tried to get that deal going, or was that Qatar
Good, I hope
acting on
so.
their own? Yeah.
Get him out of there. Get the guy who actually won the election in. It'd be nice to see a country on this continent where the winner of the election actually gets to take power. Yeah. I see. One of my problems with my fellow conservatives, if they've gotten so burned by terrible foreign policies in the past that they've somehow convinced themselves that we don't have any enemies. And I'm a traditionalist. I think our enemies should be destroyed and should be at our knees begging for mercy. The tradition of Hannibal and Julius Caesar and Genghis Khan.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that's what America's power is for. We do have enemies out there. There are bad people out there. It's not all imaginary. Some of it, sometimes foreign wars are in our interest. Other times they aren't. For instance, Ukraine. It is in our interest to end the Ukraine war. I'm a guy who actually trained Ukrainian soldiers. There were Ukrainian soldiers with me when I was in Kosovo. I like Ukrainians. I wish they would win. I don't like the Russians. I wish they would lose. I would also like a pony. Just because you want something doesn't make it so. It's in America's interest for there not to be a war between Russia and Ukraine. A war that, by the way, we can't understand. It's all between the Slavs. Yeah, you've seen Goodfellas, right?
Mm-hmm.
You remember when Joe Pesci gets whacked?
Yes.
And Robert De Niro's really upset, and then Ray Liotta says, it was between the Italians. It was real greaseball stuff. Like he couldn't, like these Irish gangsters couldn't fully understand it. Like we're going to understand what's going on with a bunch of Slavs over the last 1,000 years. Okay, there's a history there.
Yeah.
And of course, our idiot foreign policy people decide it's all black and white. Oh, Russia bad, Ukraine good. Well, I guess in general, but there's a little more to it than that.
So you like the way you like the more transactional way that that the president's handling it?
Well, I'm just simply in America's interest.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. I expect the Ukrainians to look out for the Ukrainians. I don't hold anything. A lot of people like vilify Zelensky. Hey, he's doing what he thinks he needs to do for his country, man. I might not enjoy all the things he does, but I think he's doing his job. My job is to take care of America. And unfortunately for the foreign policy establishment, Trump understands that. His job is to take care of America, not the Ukrainians, not the Russians, not the Europeans.
Right.
America.
Let's veer off into a couple more things that I want to talk to you before I have to let you go. Because I promised you I'd only talk, use 15 minutes of your time. And here's the one. The Civil Rights Division head, Harmeet Dillon, has sent Oregon, Washington, California, howlers about the fact that they need to turn over their voter roll information to them. You have done this kind of work before in the past following a huge election. And I was just wondering what your thoughts were about that, if you had any that you've been thinking about.
Well, look, I think Harmeet Dillon is a superstar. She is a terrific lawyer. I have referred cases to her back when I was practicing law in California. And she is great. Yeah, you've got to have fair elections. And there's a role for the federal government in ensuring that, even when the president is Donald Trump.
Right.
We aren't doing the special Donald Trump exception to all the other rules.
Sure.
Democrats are perfectly happy when they have the Department of Justice to go out there and do your election security stuff, which of course is all a scam. well, we're going to do it too. And they don't like it because they're cheating. And we know they're cheating. They know that they're cheating. They know we know they're cheating.
Mm.
That's the only reason you don't purge your rolls is to cheat. The only reason you don't have voter ID is to cheat. The only way you have eternal, 5, 7, 8 week pre-election voting is to cheat. It's all to cheat.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't want to get caught on that. So I'm glad she's doing it. They've just done so much damage to society. There's just so many things we have to do. It's exhausting, but they've been pretty tireless about it. I think they've done a good job.
Yeah. I mean, I hope they can follow through. I know they're down like 30 attorneys in that division.
Oh, they're down like a lot more. A lot of them quit, but good. They were trash.
Good. Do you worry about the FBI at all? Because I'm getting mixed messages. Obviously, the Miranda Devine story this week, and I see Kash Patel. I wish he were just a little less eager to get to a microphone. What's your thought?
Well, look, do you ever hear anything from Dan Bongino?
Not much.
No, you see, and I saw one today. I actually sent him a text. A progress report. Dan Bongino goes underground, does work, comes back with a progress report. That's exactly what we want. And our guy, another big public figure who's doing the same thing, is over at National Security Council. That's Seb Gorka. He's not out there in front of he's in there doing and they are doing things to reorient the organization. It's turning a big ship around. There's a lot of scumbags in there, just like Pete Hegseth's doing. Yeah. He's in there turning stuff around. And it's going to take time.
Trying to talk about him right now.
Yeah, I think I'm just glad we have 3 more years to reform these organizations, and hopefully, someday the Democrats will take power again. Hopefully, the reforms will be in place and firm enough to protect from the corruption that the Democrats would attempt to reinstall.
Do you the way that the scenario went today was that Dan Bongino took the old guys off, the old investigators off the J6 pipe bomber case, put a new set of people to look at the existing information, and then they come up with a suspect.
Sounds like a reasonable thing. If these guys couldn't or wouldn't find it, and I'd be perfectly willing to believe either of them, then you get new eyes on. And you try again, and now they have a suspect, and we will see whether whether they've got the evidence or not. A guy gets a fair trial, unlike the J6 defendants.
Right.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah. All right, Kurt. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks, and his work is at Town Hall, one of our colleagues over there, and of course, he's the outspoken individual who has done amazing work with his Kelly Turnbull novels, and the latest of which is, in fact, I'm going to go find that. Where is that?
Panama Red.
Panama Red.
You can go get it now.
Yeah. What happens in this one without telling me that,
Well, he goes to Mogadishu, Minnesota. I just happened to drop it right in the middle of Somalia Gate. So it's yeah, it's
some serious business.
Ripped from today's headlines.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Let's see, I'm looking for it. Where is it? Ah, here it is. No, that's another.
That's a different one, but
that's another one. Yeah, that was already in my still store. Yep, American Apocalypse, the Second Civil War, and the latest is Panama Red. Kurt Schlichter, thank you so much for everything you do, and I appreciate you coming on the Adult in the Room podcast today.
Thanks for having me.
Godspeed. Wow, that's amazing. Well, okay, so we kind of covered the waterfront there on a few of the topics, which is great. But let's go over, if we can, the announcement today that the J6 pipe bomber suspect has been found. And, you're getting all the latest stuff is wrong most of the time. And so supposedly an anarchist, and supposedly this guy who lived in Virginia, and he never bothered to leave after setting bombs. And so where I'm confused and wondering about, because Steve Baker over at the Blaze was making some pretty interesting inroads in the investigation of the case and gate analysis, looking to see what they thought the evidence led them. And he talked with Thomas Massie, of course, who's the bête noire of the Republicans right now, because he's very independent and he has he's willing to stick a finger in the eye of Donald Trump. Okay. And even the FBI is willing to do that. And he believes that the Capitol Police were actually behind the setting of the bombs, because it was all part of an attempt to get people to distract away from the vote in the Senate to go along with the 2020 election results. And the bombs were allegedly supposed to go off at 1:00 the same time that the vote was going to take place. So that sort of sets up the friction there of the situation. And so you're like, have you seen these? Have you seen the bombs? I'm sure I have a picture of one in my library, but I mean, they look like they're, something off the neck of Flava Flav. I mean, they were just kind of huge and kind of ridiculous looking. And they were actually, it makes sense that the person who was initially thought to have been part of this was, after they did the gait analysis, Steve Baker and the people he's been working with, and they did the gait analysis and they came up with a woman who'd been injured because she has a light limp, and she was a soccer player and she broke her femur or something like that back in the day. Anyway, so she ended up at the Capitol Police. And then all of a sudden, we have these connections. So here is Jeanine Pirro. We'll talk about this. Let's hear from her. I've got this. So hold on. Just make sure I got Judge Jeanine. And she was the only one who made sense. There was a huge dog and pony show today at the FBI, at the DOJ. And they announced the arrest of this person. But, okay, well, we can't really tell you anything about him. We made an arrest. We can't tell you much. Dan Bongino, the backstory of this is that Bongino took the investigators who'd been investigating for how many years has it been? And had scads of information and would not be able to find anybody. And then they end up with, he takes everybody off. Like, you guys, you're not seeing anything anymore. We're going to take you off. We're going to put some new eyeballs on it. Okay. And here's Judge Jeanine. They finally come up with something and they go, this was existing evidence, existing information.
This case is big. 4 years, 10 months, and 28 days ago, an individual placed a bomb in the vicinity of both the RNC and the DNC. And for that amount of time, that individual evaded accountability. Today, as a result of the cumulative efforts of the men and women in the FBI and the police department and the Department of Justice, we are finally able to make an arrest of an individual by the name of Brian Cole. As the Attorney General has indicated, he is arrested for transporting an explosive device in interstate commerce, as well as the attempted malicious destruction by means of explosive materials. You know, folks, this case involved millions of pieces of data. And it is a huge win because it was like finding a needle in a haystack. So much of this evidence was very specific, but a lot of it was also very general. For example, there were 233,000 black end caps of the type that were used in this case. I want you to think about the fact that the FBI had to go through the sale of every one of them to try to find commonality with an individual, along with the purchase of the pipe itself, the cap ends, the wires, the steel, and the 9-volt batteries. Every one of those had to be mined and remined to the point where we were able to then connect. And make no mistake, it was this administration, it was this president who made the decision that we were going to use all of our efforts to get it done, and get it done they did.
So this was kind of an interesting thing today. I was looking for the live stream of this event, this news conference today. I started watching. I saw the first one I saw was the one from Fox, and so eventually it went off. I mean, it's just like the live stream just dropped, and so I started looking around and I found that one. But the rationale for me is that I am so appreciative of the people who are in office right now. You have no idea. And I voted for the guy they keep trying to kill. And so I am happy that they're doing what they said they were going to do: clean up the streets, clean up the border, da 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 da. And we're going to find the J6 pipe bomber. They're going to do a new committee to find out what happened in J6. And I'm going to get to that a little bit later. But the reason I bring it up is that every once in a while I just go, you guys, you don't actually have to say every single time, but it's this administration and this president. But you know what? Nobody else is going to say it. It's not like NBC is going to go out and say this. So what do we know about the bad guy, the alleged bad guy? And what we know about the alleged bad guy is that, I've got somebody live on Newsweek right now. That's interesting. Oh, hello there. Let me see if I can get them. Stand by. Why it matters. More details about the charges we'll be facing will not be immediately available Thursday afternoon, but it's interstate commerce. It's bringing a destructive device over state lines. He's in Virginia. He came to the district, and even though they're adjacent, that's a state line that was crossed. And so that's just the beginning. And that's all we knew, because that's what Judge Janine had to say about that. So there is clearly something going on. But, several individuals who were charged and pardoned for participating in the January 6th riot reacted to his arrest on social media. Many reacted with skepticism to his arrest, though more details had not been made public. Derek Evans, a former West Virginia state senator or legislator who pleaded guilty to a felony for his role, wrote in an X post, "Do you think this is the real J6 pipe bomber?" A lot of people are wondering because of what Steve Baker's reportage has done in the past. And just recently, he's busted the door off. And, and whether or not this is accurate information, we don't know yet. We really don't. But it's compelling. I've asked Steve to be on the program multiple times, but you know how that goes. He works for the Blaze, right? And I work for PJ Media, so we are competitors. But I don't do this as PJ Media. I do this as Victoria Taft. I've been on radio forever. And by the way, I will be on Seattle Red 770 AM on Friday, filling in for Jason Rantz. So just FYI, 3 to 6, be there. You'll hear Kurt Schlichter's interview again, because I think it's going to be fantastic. And I think, what I will say, that the fact that he's bored with this, I get it. I totally get it. And the reason is that we keep seeing these operations that they keep rolling out. He was bored with the attempted information operation with respect to Pete Hegseth. And, now all of a sudden it's against the law to blow up our enemies on the field of battle. Come on. What? It's not even a close call. Of course it's okay. But he's kind of bored with these attempts by the left, the Soros left or whatever, these change color revolutions, etc., that, he's just sick and tired of it. And I get how he's that, but we have to keep explaining, because I saw Robert Cahaly say the other day that half the country doesn't know what the hell's going on. I mean, they don't actually know what we know. And even, I mean, you don't even have to get conspiratorial or crazy to understand that there are things that are happening in this country, and they're hinky, way hinky, and they make sense if you bother to look at the information. But not a lot of people know that. You know that, and I know that. And that's why Kurt sees it we could see it from around the corner now. And we've seen this so many times where it's the Nancy Pelosi wrap-up smear. Anyway, we'll get to that in a little bit. But, Michael Letts is my guest right now, and he is a gentleman who is a long-time police officer. He's law enforcement. He's, he's got some thoughts about this. He is the founder and president and CEO of Invest USA, you know what they do? They get bulletproof vests for cops, which I think is a great idea. Michael, let's welcome to the Adult in the Room podcast with Victoria Taft. How are you?
I'm doing great, Victoria. It's always a privilege to be with you. Thank you for the opportunity. And let me take this moment to say thank you for what you're doing for our country.
Oh, thank
If it were
you.
not for people like you, we wouldn't have hope. Hope is what keeps the world running.
Oh, amen for that. Hope. It's good. So, okay, so your thoughts about what you saw today in the news about a suspect in the J6 pipe bombing case.
I like the way you just phrased that. A suspect. Let's be very careful not to say it is the suspect. Because quite frankly, what I saw was a beginning. And I think that's a positive. I do have frustration that it's taken us this long to get to where we're at, Victoria. I've continually told the administration that we've done a fantastic job of identifying nefarious activity. Not so sure that I can claim the same thing for actually holding them accountable. It's time to start seeing indictments rolling, and this is a good start. We're behind a little bit behind the 8 ball on the J6, as you're very well aware that the statute of limitations is coming up. But I think we have a whole lot more information than we're divulging right now, and I'm just sitting on the side. I know we have a lot more information than we're divulging now, and I'm waiting to sit on the sidelines here real quickly to see how fast we can get that out, get these people indicted, and start getting trials moving underway.
Will you watch a video with me? This is a
I'd be happy
video. This is a conversation on X that Steve Baker with the Blaze had with Thomas Massey, as I mentioned, the bête noire of the Republicans right now, just generally terrific person. I know, so I'll get hate mail, whatever. But whatever. So he was on he was on the committee that oversaw looking into what happened on January 6th.
Right.
And he found out from Benny Thompson, the House member in charge of the J6 committee, that they never even looked into the J6 pipe bomber.
That's correct.
They didn't look into it. They didn't. I mean, here, in fact, it's kind of it's just a mind blower actually that he didn't look into it. Like what? Here's just a little snippet of this one. I just have to go on the Wayback Machine to show this.
Where was she on January 6th?
It's talking about
while all this was going on.
Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, in fact, I saw somebody smirk today. Let me give you a backgrounder. Saw somebody smirk today, a reporter who was laughing at the question of another reporter who obviously knew more about this than they did. And the question was why, Kamala Harris could have been in harm's way since she was at the DNC the day, January 6th. And why in heaven's name was she there? And why did you never look into the first Black woman in the history of the country taking the office of vice president? And she could have been nuked that day. I don't mean literally, but she could have been harmed in a pipe bomb explosion. And he didn't know. Here is that exchange.
I don't know.
Do you know there were pipe bombs allegedly present on January 6th?
I know there were 2 pipe bombs, one at the Democratic headquarters and one at the Republican.
So you're in charge of the entire investigation of what happened on January 6th and what led up to January 6th. And you don't know that the vice president was in the incoming vice president was in the DNC when that pipe bomb was sitting there.
Nope.
I don't.
No, watch. He won't answer. Now he's going to rationalize. Hey, man, we weren't doing a criminal investigation or anything. Well, wait a minute. Yeah, you were. Yeah, you were. Check this out.
Do you know there were pipe bombs allegedly?
Oh, no, I don't want to start it over.
The submission, it's not in the 850-page document.
Oh, this is where he says, I apologize. I upcut it too much. This is where Benny Thompson, the chair of the J6 committee, said, well, the pipe bomb situation, well, we kind of sort of knew something about it, kind of, sort of, but we didn't, we sort of put it in the No, we didn't put it in the 850 page thing, but we did it for the we sort of put it in the abstract, or what, I don't even remember where they put it. I think maybe in some addendum or something. It wasn't even in the major portion of the January 6th committee report.
It was in an addendum, Victoria, and quite frankly, here's what is ironic. This is what's so troubling is when you begin to take a look at whether it's this or whether it's other cases that we've been talking about. They are definitely building a case, not just for their narrative, but it's all building towards a insurrection, an overthrow of the power of the government that we have now. You know, I did work with intelligence agencies, and I can tell you what you're seeing now with the congressman questioning whether our military should obey unlawful orders. You know, they
Right.
can't give an unlawful order. That's a page straight out of the playbook that the CIA has put together on overthrowing governments. We've overthrown governments for how many years? How many decades across the world? We don't just go into that and say, "Oh, gee, I wonder how we're going to do this one this time." We have a
Yeah.
playbook. We've already analyzed it. We know what we're doing. Everything I'm seeing now is coming directly out of the playbooks. My question then becomes, whose side are you on? Are you a governmental agency? Are you on the American people's side? Or is there something else nefarious going on? And I believe we all know the answer to that question, and it's time that we expose it for what it is and get it drained, get it cleaned.
Here is what you're referring to, and we played it at the top of the show before we talked with Kurt Schlichter about it. And this is for those of you just tuning in. This is what he's talking about.
Unprecedented disrespect when they were all brought to get a pep rally in front of Hegseth and Trump. This is an administration that's fired.
By the way, this is Mark Warner, a senator, a clown. And he's bringing things up that say, well, that meeting that Hegseth had with the generals, that was ridiculous. Yeah, but was it illegal or something? Can you impeach him for it? No. Do they ever ask that? No.
Hired, uniform generals from the head of the NSA, the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency. Mm-hmm. And I think in many ways, the uniform military may help save us from this president and his lame people like Hegseth, because I think their commitment is to the Constitution and obviously not to Trump. And I expect Bradley to adhere to that.
So, Senator, let's go a little further on this. What are concerns you have about the legality of these strikes?
Yeah. So is that just so he was calling for a coup.
He was calling for a coup. They continue to call for a coup. They're setting all the stage to make sure that transpires. One of the key things in establishing a coup, if you want to cause enough doubt in the military that should something occur, they make the decision it's best for them to stand down and let the dust settle and decide who to support after the end of it. They're doing their constitutional requirement, which is to obey the orders of the commander in chief. And so what surprises me, Victoria, these playbooks that I'm telling you about, we're in the last pages. So they're moving very quickly, trying to make sure we have a change in administration and we're very conservatism and make sure it never surfaces again. This is not something we're just starting. They're in the last final pages of these books and they're moving very quickly.
Lovely. So we can expect, I know we talked to Kurt. He's just a wealth of information. He's bored with all this. He can see it. He knows it, but not everybody does know that. They don't actually know what's going on before their eyes. They know it's like I felt with the 2020 election. Not that I want to go there exactly, but it's just like something gravely wrong was happening during that time. It made no sense. And the reason it made no sense is because it was so chaotic and was clearly not orderly, or it was orderly, but for a different reason. So when you can see it, you can't unsee it. And so we have this happening right now. Now, here's what I don't understand. Listen with me, if you will, because I think you'll have an opinion about this. It is this information that Steve Baker put out about and has been reporting on and working diligently to find out who the J6 pipe bomber was and is. And they came up over at the Blaze with the idea that a woman who'd previously worked at the Capitol Police Department, who was now working at the CIA as a security person, was involved And at every turn, Thomas Massey says, and he looked into this. Okay, he investigated this diligently, more than most. It's shocking that he's not allowed on the J6 committee this time around, which is, that's political.
Raises some serious questions, doesn't it, Victoria?
Yeah, it sure does. Let's watch this, because this is where Thomas Massey goes, I just went from 95% sure that this was a Capitol Police thing at the, behest of somebody else, probably Nancy Pelosi or what have you, and became 99% sure.
This is the thing that I hadn't seen before that got me to 99%. And, we should watch this video what happens is, well, let's watch it right now. And then
now watch this a little bit.
The video.
Okay, so this is the condensed version of the videos that this is the short one of the actual hooded bomber going over to the CVCI bush.
Walking to the bush and looks like placing something or sitting down.
Apparently pull something out of the backpack first and then sits down on the ground.
Next to this bush.
Right.
And lingers doing things.
Now, here we go. There we go. Now, kind of a, can you say Indian style anymore? Cross-legged, whatever.
No.
On the
We're going to jail for that.
Next to the bush.
Here we're looking.
Clearly rummaging through the backpack, which, by the way, the FBI had identified only had one bomb in it, not two.
Now keep listening.
Time there for somebody that's
so this is a video of somebody they believe is hiding the explosive devices, which were, they said that they were live, but no, I don't think they were. And then what happened was they come back the next day and they find, this is where Massey nails it. Now, so if you keep listening, he goes through the timeline. And it's valuable information.
Trying to place bombs.
Yeah. Well, now the individual is leaning over. Look at that. Full lean over underneath the extended arm,
bush,
going underneath the bush. It looks like the conclusion would be that there was maybe an attempt to place the bomb there first. Leans back. And then gets up and wanders off.
Now, this was out in front of the Black Congressional Caucus building. And that bomb was later, I think, placed over at the DNC. I could get, I don't know, maybe Michael, which is which, but there were only two bombs. Oh, okay, cool. But, so what I was thinking is somebody was trying to make a racial comment with this bomb. A targeting, because the Black Congressional Caucus is for blacks in office. And Kamala Harris is the first black vice president. So I think they were trying to start something there and nothing happened. But, it's all very curious that the just elected vice president of the United States has been spirited over to the DNC when there's supposed to be a vote taking place on Capitol Hill. But now check this out.
Behind the bush, in that sidewalk and alleyway that the individual disappears to leads to the DNC area.
Now,
where the benches are.
This next part is 102.
On
the next
6th.
thing. Backpack guy and man bun guy walk by the bush that the pipe bomber was at the night before and spent a minute and a half, looked like trying to place a bomb. They walk by the bush once.
They're right back here.
They're behind some street signs there for a moment.
Right here.
I forget what the timing. It's something like 35 or 40 seconds that they're off camera there, and then they turn around and head back. Here they come back to the bush.
So,
and whoa, what is that? Whoa, that bush looks really interesting.
And then backpack guy does the lean. So man bun guy walks on by, backpack guy stops, leans back, and then looks under the bush.
And here's the coup de grace. Oh, I didn't. Oh crap! I didn't put that in there. Maybe I've got it over here. Yeah, here we
You
go.
know, it's interesting as
This
you're
is
doing
the
this.
thing that I
Hold on. Let me just get rid of this and put the other one in there. What'd you say, Michael?
Because it's interesting as we're watching these from a law enforcement standpoint. This posed the greatest potential of injury. This should have been where the investigation immediately began with the video, and it should have been actively pursued. Notice that this occurred in 2021, and what year is this now? An
Yeah,
awful long
it's
time.
almost 2026.
Awful long time for it to be now finally getting to the point where it's really been taken a look at.
Yeah. Here we go. Timeline. You'll be interested. If you haven't seen this video, I think you sound like you have. But
before that got me to 99%. And we should watch this video at this what happens is well, let's watch it right now.
oh, we already did this. Oh,
So
well, okay. I beg your pardon because that's the same vid, but he goes through the timeline and everything he says is it was found here by Capitol Police. It was here by Capitol Police. And over
Correct.
here, this person who oversaw the investigation was Capitol Police. And then pretty soon, Anananda Pittman, or whatever her name is, ends up as in a cush job over at UC Berkeley as the police chief. Thanks to the former DHS secretaries, president of their chancellor, and Nancy Pelosi. That was Janet Napolitano, former DHS secretary. I mean, there's just so many different. I mean, I recognize that there are coincidences, but just not. I mean, sort of a cushy job.
Victoria, there's not nearly those kind of coincidences in real life. Everything that we have seen, whether you take a look at the assassination attempt of the president in Butler, we can just go down the list. I've been involved with law enforcement and intelligence way too long. You don't get that many lucky breaks, put things together in one shot, not without inside information, inside help. It's been apparent, obvious that the president, bless his heart, is doing what he can to drain the swamp. It's like he's got half of his own government working against him,
Oh yeah,
and that's what makes it so difficult.
yeah. So where do you like? Can this person that they arrested, that theory, coexist with the other theory that Steve Baker's talking about, or are we talking about mutually exclusive things?
No, they can coexist. The question is, we have to go after where the strongest evidence lies, and I don't believe it lies with the initial person. I believe it lies within Capitol Police.
And you say that just based on what you've seen. Tell me why you think it's
Based on all my
compelling.
years of experience, based on inside information that I have, and based on the little bit of information that's been leaked. You notice, I thought it was interesting that during the J6 hearings, they never did ask the police chief for Capitol Police to testify because he was let go that day, remember?
Yes, I do.
And of course, the real reason was his narrative didn't match what they wanted to accomplish. And so, who else was running and giving directives for Capitol Police? When you begin to look there, you'll begin to find out who the players were and how all this ties in together.
The
What's scary,
intelligence point person for the Capitol Police was then put in Stevenson's chief of police job for Capitol Police.
that's
And
correct.
she was able to later, I mean, it was that Anananda Pittman, and then she was later given that cushy job at UC Berkeley. So, yeah, keep going. I'm sorry. I just wanted to make
No,
sure.
I'm glad you did. So, what becomes apparent to the American people is we don't have the transparency we've been promised. We're not blaming the president. This is I was on a debate show and they said, "Well, your president's failing." No, my president can't run the entire government. Nobody can.
Mhm.
Nobody's superhuman. My president picks members who are supposed to lead agencies. And even those who lead the agencies, when you have so much corruption underneath you, it takes an awful lot of time and an awful lot of effort to begin to pinpoint where it needs to be and what needs to be taken care of. The problem that I do find is that we're not moving forward fast enough with actually making indictments and holding people accountable. I think
Well,
we have enough evidence that we need to be doing that a whole lot more than what we are.
here's the tricky thing too, and you probably know this far better than I. There are very few U.S. attorneys that have been approved by the U.S. Senate that is run by Republicans. And so now they're going to, for example, I mean, I'm on the email lists of all of them. And it's like the Oregon finally got theirs approved, but that's because he's probably a Dem. And okay, great. And then the Central California bill of sale, nope. Now he's got some new titles so that any legal actions, indictments that he brings will not be questioned and thrown out of court for lack of the official standing of the U.S. attorney. This is the game they're playing, and that's why they need to probably blow open the filibuster so they can get these people through. That is the way they are doing it. And thank goodness they approved the Palm Beach County guy who's overseeing the grand jury for the conspiracy to prevent the rights of President Trump and the Mar-a-Lago raid. They got that guy in there, but they can't do it themselves. I mean, Jeanine Pirro and this guy, and look what they're doing to Alina Habba, and look what they're doing to, I mean, it's just, they had stuff thrown out. I mean, it's absurd.
I think what you touched on there, Victoria, is very pertinent to what we're discussing. And unfortunately, it's not just Democrats. We have an awful lot of rhinos and establishment Republicans that are working just as hard to block and to keep the status quo. They like corruption. You know, I've been telling people this for some time on the shows that I've been on all across the country. When you have a corrupt Congress, you say, why would you make such a statement? We all know the billions and billions of dollars that have gone through the State Department, USAID, and others over to NGOs that went back to members of Congress who supported it. Okay, the evidence is there. I see no indictments on that. Our judicial system, we have activist judges who've been repeatedly told, you can't rule that way. They do it anyway. They don't care. You have law enforcement agencies who we know have exercised their authority and been weaponized in the past. And we're still dealing with that now, even though we have new leadership. Department of Justice is the same thing. My question is, knowing how much corruption do we have, do you really think you're going to be able to get the impetus needed to drain the swamp? And when people say, well, if we don't, what else can we do? I refer back to the Constitution. The Constitution does provide for the commander in chief to establish military tribunals for matters of national security. I can't think of anything more national security wise than our judicial system, our congressional system, and those that run chief agencies in the country. I think it's time we start showing that we're going to hold people accountable. You'll see a different flavor up here overnight if that occurs.
I mean, somebody's got to go to jail. This is absurd. I mean, so much has gone on and allowed to pass, and I just don't want it to go on anymore. We're asking for accountability, and we need to do that. Here's that Massey. I think this is the right Massey soundbite.
Okay.
That he gives us the timeline. Let's try.
They don't know
try
look on camera yet. And as we've pointed out before, there's 1,800 cameras.
That's Steve Baker from The Blaze.
17 hours. That's over 30,000 hours of video right there that they're going to look at in 20 minutes.
So let's tie this all together.
Thank you.
We've got the fishy, how did they know exactly where to look, including the place where the pipe bomber tried to place a bomb.
Right.
It was police. It was Capitol Hill police, right?
Yeah.
That found these bombs, and they should. I hope they went and bought lottery tickets.
Well,
after finding after going to these two locations.
Next point's real important.
But that's police. There's the Capitol Hill police nexus.
His point that he'll make, I'm so used to hearing it that I just thought he was going to say it again. But here's the thing. They knew to stop looking for pipe bombs after they found the second one. Why didn't they keep looking? You know, there you go.
Yeah. Then we go.
It's all what we've been talking about on your show, Victoria. This is all unfortunately not coincidental. It's all laid out and planned. It's very well scripted. They have one goal in mind. They're going to resume and regain power so they can silence you and me. And that's what their attempt is to do so.
Yeah, we have to shut up, don't we?
Well, who was excluded?
Here's the line.
Capitol Hill Police.
Right.
And then we go to the person of interest in your article from a couple weeks ago. That's a Capitol Hill police officer. It's a small circle. Like, there are a lot of things that point not with 100% certainty, maybe each of them with a high probability. But when you take them all together, and the fact that I got to interview at least one of these guys, and he never told me about this other Bush. He didn't have answers for why they didn't look for more bombs after they found the second one. And then we got the ATF person in charge of the bomb stuff happening on January 6th is now at Capitol Police handling the interview.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 4 connections to Capitol Hill Police. And so each one of those, in my mind, reinforces the other.
Okay, that's basically the bottom line for that. And Capitol Police cannot be deposed. Capitol Police cannot be, well, they can be deposed, but there's no discovery. They are covered under the speech and debate clause, just like Congress. That needs to stop.
I was just going to say, why are they allowed that? You and I don't get it.
Most cops don't get it. No other cop shops that I'm aware of know that.
We must be peons. It must be a two-tier justice system is all I can figure.
Yeah. Crazy. Where do we go from here?
I think we do a number of things. I think, first of all, the president is exactly right. Start showing accountability by, first of all, going after those that are creating problem in the country. The deportation issue. We have a lot of illegal immigrants, the Afghans, Somalians, etc., that are here on expired visas that are creating problems that we need to show every effort that we're trying to protect America first. I think that's the key, Victoria. There's a perception now that if you're an American, you're last on the list, last for protection, last for anything. You're considered an outcast. That's got to be reversed. And the second thing we have to do is it's time for action. And if we don't think we can trust our judicial system anymore or Congress or anything, it's time to do what our forefathers put in the Constitution. I think we need a military tribunal for Senator Warren and Senator Kelly. I think once that starts, we're going to move forward and make sure that we hold people accountable, whether it's through military tribunals or through the judicial court system. But it's time that people know that their actions have consequences.
News
We haven't done a good job of doing
that. The news today is that they're looking into it. The DOJ is looking into the seditious 6. We'll see. Mark Warner.
How many times have we looked into things over the decades?
I know.
I think America's sick of us looking into it. That's the first thing I hear on the street. Oh, great. Another investigation. Just what we need.
I know. Well, you need investigation to get people indicted, but you need to. That's one of the reasons I like them to be a little quieter. I'm so used to. I've been in this news business for a long, long time, and it has always been, shh, we're not saying anything about it until we have an indictment. Shh, we're not saying anything. We're not even. They would never even acknowledge there was an investigation.
Right.
Okay. That was the way of old, and. So now we're hearing about those things and people just go, well, snap, let's go. Let's get chop. Let's get this going. I'm like, people on my comments section at PJ Media I just like, it's, you guys, it's not easy to build a case. I mean, you can't just throw anything against the wall and hope that somebody gets indicted oh no, I'm guilty. No, sorry. Perry Mason's only sorry, Matlock fans, it's not going to happen. But
the sad part about it though, Victoria, is they hide behind that nowadays. People always try to be I hear it so many times. Sorry, we can't comment. It's under investigation. And then 2 years later, sorry, I can't comment. It's under investigation.
Yep.
How long do you think you plan on investigating?
Chris Ray, every day.
Every day.
Every day. Yeah, that's another reason. It feels good that we can make some difference, but it just feels a little disjointed sometimes. I appreciate your time today, Michael Letts. Thank you so much for coming on the Adult in the Room podcast.
Thank you again for what you're doing. You keep up the good work. We need you now more than ever, Victoria. God bless you and God bless America.
God bless America. Right on. Thank you. Okay, so a couple other things going on in the news today that I think are important. There's been a real, like, what just happened there? I'm going to find the story for you. It's in Yahoo News. This is wild. And let me pull it up because it takes a second. There we go. This is just, I'm sure you've heard about it at this point. But, Tuesday we spent a lot of time talking about this story about what happened with the National Guard shooting and the man who, is this the right one? Yeah. Nope. Sorry. Where is this? Yahoo News. Where's my Oh, it's right here. Hello. That's the Yahoo News thing. Stand by. Stunning, Feds probe stunning twist in the National Guard story. She said, is that the one? No, that's not. Hold on. Second. Shh, don't say anything. Oh, crap. Where is this story? Weird. Anyway. Huh. I mean, I literally have it in my, you can see it, but I can't toggle. Anyway, bottom line is that the latest situation is that the person who's accused of killing one National Guard soldier and hurting another, wounding another, was doing it because his family back in Afghanistan was being threatened by the Taliban and he was being blackmailed. And I actually find that that's a possibility, actually, because this kind of stuff happens. And he also was very upset about a friend of his who previously served with him on behalf of the Americans in the special unit in Afghanistan had been murdered and by the Taliban. And we know the Taliban, you guys, we know. Of course, they'll kill anybody. They're going to kill the family. It's an entirely possible thing. Problem is that this guy took several cross-country trips and he went dark and he was disjointed. He was a person who was not connected whatsoever in the community, and he'd lost his job. And so there are things that Americans think, oh, I understand why he was depressed and went and shot up people because they're people that stupid. Okay. Andy McCarthy used to say to me, Victoria, what would it take for you to plant a bomb or put on a suicide vest? And I'd say, why, nothing could make me do that? Yeah, exactly. That's right. And so therefore it stands to reason that not a lot of people would be persuaded to do that. But nevertheless, they say that this is a possibility that they're looking down into. And I think that they should be looking at that possible motive for the National Guard attack. I'm not sure why he had to go all the way to Washington, D.C. But of course, he had to make a point. And as we pointed out, my colleague over at PJ Media, Robert Spencer, had reported that he did the shooting and then he took all his clothes off because he wanted to go see his virgins and he wanted to be ready to go because they're promised 72 virgins. Or is it 72 raisins? No, actually. So there you go. No, I'm kidding. So we're being bombed here. At least this is supposed to be a quiet studio and I hear like some huge aircraft over my head. It's probably coming to get me. Anyway, thanks so much for tuning in to The Adult in the Room. We will be, let's see, Tuesday. Today's Thursday. We will be back Tuesday, 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific, to tell you what else is going on. We'll have the latest on all the big information, all the big stories of the day. In the meantime, head up, heart out, and strive to be the adult in the room. Get on with yourself. Mischief managed. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this episode of the Adult in the Room podcast. We do not take you for granted. We appreciate every single person who tunes in every week to listen and watch this program. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday, live streaming on Rumble, and then on every other podcast platform shortly thereafter when we can port it over and get it over there as soon as we can. All the shows can be found at victoriataft.com, where the censorship regime has been banned by me. Follow me on social media at these names: Victoria Taft, the Adult in the Room podcast, and the Victoria Taft Show. Send media inquiries, or any others for that matter, to victoria@victoriataft.com. And here's a big ask. would you please subscribe, share, like, comment, recommend, and give this program a 5-star rating where you can? We really appreciate it. We do not take that for granted either. Follow my work at, you guessed it, victoriataft.com. PJ Media, I write tons over there. Flamingo Audiobooks, and of course the radio. I don't do this alone. This show is produced and engineered by Overall Media. 1A Cast is responsible for some of the Adult in the Room podcast's imaging. Logo design by Hageman Creative. The Adult in the Room podcast is produced at Flamingo Road Studios. All rights reserved.